Do I even like Pokémon anymore? That was a question I asked myself after finishing Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, which are my least favorite video games of all time. And I found myself asking it again after finishing Pokémon Black and White on stream. These games are revered, I'd argue straight up worshipped by the Pokémon community, and I thought they were okay, I guess. So, are Pokemon games just inherently middling, or am I just too old for this shit? It's a hard question to ask because I've dedicated so much of my life to this franchise. I've been a fan ever since I was a kid, autistically obsessing over every minute aspect of its world and characters. I loved the anime, the games, and I'd even tolerate getting bullied for carrying the manga and cards to my middle school classes. Then in high school, I made these videos. For 3 years at this point, I've been a Pokemon YouTuber, and with how seriously I took YouTube, deluding myself into thinking of it as a viable career path, Pokemon in a way had truly become a part of me. That's why my video discussing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was so emotional. I couldn't look at what I'd play and see it as just an innocent fuck up. Pokemon games had gradually been declining before my eyes for many years now, and I was very forgiving of it. To this day, I'll still say that Sword and Shield weren't that bad. At this point though, I don't even know if that's the case. I was a different person when Pokemon Sword and Shield came out. I was 14 in my freshman year of high school. I was young and I still liked video games as a medium. When I played Scarlet and Violet, I was in my senior year of high school, and a lot had changed for me. I was less willing to be patient with the game's flaws because I had become a less patient person. I guess that's to say that when I revisited Pokemon Black and White as an adult, those feelings likely persisted into the game that I played. But I want to form some level of objectivity here and find out if Pokemon Black and White are truly overrated, or if my love for Pokemon has simply gone away. However, there's one thing I will say, and that Pokemon Black and White are brilliantly presented games, especially for their hardware. Even if these are games I don't have strong emotions for, I can tell one thing, and that Game Freak actually fucking cared when they made this game. While Sword and Shield is stunningly unambitious and Scarlet and Violet are bafflingly unfinished, Black and White are immaculately well presented. The simple addition of seasons adds so much to this game when it doesn't really feel like they should. Just having a new look to every location just shows the level of care that was put in. Said locations are much richer in content than they are in future games too. Houses can actually be entered unlike SV, and said houses actually look different unlike SS. There's little puzzles in each route that SS discards for linear hallways and the SV literally couldn't replicate. Even if the core gameplay of Pokemon has remained unchanged in Black and White, the attention to detail here is extremely important to me. And that's why, even if I wasn't impressed by the gameplay, I still found something really relaxing about playing these games. It's the perfect comfort play for when you have a friend you're talking to on Discord, or a YouTube live chat making the edgiest jokes imaginable. Yes, this actually happened. That's to say nothing of the graphics. I'm not a very big fan of pixel art, but even I can't deny how gorgeous this game is. Every time I saw a bridge, I wanted to cut. Every battle has these lovingly crafted animated sprites that show these Pokemon with so much personality. Look at Mankey for instance. Mankey is a Pokemon with a surprisingly high amount of personality, and that personality is a retail worker. Since it's constantly pissed off at entitled boomers who've never needed to work minimum wage in their life, Mankey should look pissed off enough to really capture the feeling of how shitty minimum wage is. I think I relate to Mankey too much. While they were able to get these ideas across in prior Pokemon games with strong posing, Black and White puts Mankey to life through animation, something which prior games couldn't do. As such, Mankey's constantly jumping, unable to contain its heightened emotions. Its arms are always prepared to counter an attack from its opponent, and its nose is bulging as it's constantly about to burst of steam. Mankey is so expressive in Black and White, and it's that effort that makes battles so much fun to play and watch in these games. Compare that to the animation it got in XY, and he's just standing there, menacingly. What did they do to Mankey? This isn't Splice's Body Hello anymore, it's a husk of life! If you think I'm cherry picking too, I'll use an example of a Pokemon that one of my friends doesn't obsess over. Seal is unequivocally the most boring Pokemon to ever exist, and they found a way to make even it have a personality in Black and White. With its tongue, it's animated like a cheerful puppy, wagging its hands in excitement. Then the XY animation is about as boring as it gets. Then, to give an example from a Pokemon people actually care about, Charizard looks excellent in this game. Its pose is still battle ready, its claws close up and its neck zooming into its opponent. Then, to intimidate its opponent with its fierce presence, it will raise its neck to assert dominance. Charizard looks incredible in Black and White, while it has basically no good posing in XY, turning an expressive Pokemon and one that would only be interchangeable if it weren't for its excellently simplistic design. Idle animations aren't the be-all end-all, however. Battles also have moves, and the moves being isolated from the Pokemon's idle animations work pretty solidly here. With 2D sprites, it's easy to suspend your disbelief when Zen Mode Darmanitan does literally anything, despite not even moving a pixel. It's a luxury that doesn't exist in 3D, yet I honestly find it understandable that modern Pokemon can't replicate it, even if I prefer how Battle Revolution did it. But this isn't a video on modern Pokemon, so I won't expand on that. As for said moves, they look pretty good in Black and White, refining the already solid-looking move animations in DPP to make for better-looking battles than ever before. That's not to say that the game looks bad outside of combat. While I'll never be a fan of the chibi look that the characters have in the overworld, I do recognize that it's a technical limitation, and while I prefer how Dawn and Lucas look in DPP, Hilbert and Hilda are objectively a visual upgrade from them in terms of graphical fidelity. That also applies to the backgrounds, which are drop-dead gorgeous. Similarly gorgeous are the character designs. This praise feels a little hollow, since Pokemon always has good character design, but Black and White really knock it out of the park. To give easy examples, the gym leaders look great, the trio leaders look goofy in the best way possible, Berg captures the vibes of an artistic weirdo with grace, Elisa and Skyla are both characters I wanna fuck, Clay screams Merca, and Raiden truly looks like a final boss. This extends to basically every other character, who are all very memorable. Cheren and Bianca both look equally willing to kick your ass, but in different ways. Cheren wants to outsmart you, while Bianca just wants to win with brute force. Their personalities are so well captured as soon as you take a look at them, something I couldn't say about Pomonia or Arven. The Pokémon are also the best they've ever looked. I have a preference for Gen 4 designs, but Gen 5 just nailed it out of the park. Many of Univa's Pokémon are some of my favorites of all time, and it genuinely made building a team on stream a nightmare in the best way possible. Something I legitimately couldn't say about any other Pokemon game. The Snivy line is my favorite starter line of all time, which says a lot when Oshawtt's line is similarly peak, and hell, even Emboar looks amazing. Elaborating would turn this into a completely different video, so let's do a lightning round of some of my favorite Gen 5 Pokemon with a cringe Poké-Rap. Pheasant, Gigalith, Excadrill, Conkeldurr, Siphontoad the motherfucking green-pilled goat, Scolipede, Lilligant, Crocodile, Scrafty, fucking Garbodor! Zoroark, Evangela, Chandelure, Haxorus, Meanshao, B-Sharp, America! Fuck yeah! Reshiram, Lando T, and Malouetta may or may not want to fuck Lilligant. It says a lot about how consistently excellent Gen 5 designs are when there are many fan favorites I didn't even mention. And I mentioned a ton of Pokemon. Sure, you have shitters like Klingklane, who's about as creative as a reaction channel, but every generation has shitters. Gen 1 arguably has the most. But no one cares because the good designs of Gen 1 are excellent, while the bad ones are merely forgotten. Now that Gen 5 is the halfway point of the franchise's history, people are now at a point where they appreciate the experimental and bizarre route that Gen 5 designs took. Of course, I was a kid back when Gen 5 was the current gen, so I always loved these designs. I think that's why it feels so good to see others appreciate them as well. I'd say the same for the OST. However, this isn't entirely a thing with Black and White. Video game music was never truly appreciated, so with more people growing up with the franchise, a shift has been made in favor of celebrating the excellent music in every Pokémon game. Even in a controversial game like Sword and Shield, the one thing that won't be controversial is the OST, because they always manage to make it good. But what makes Black and White stand out is just how many people came to its music in particular. I may be a sucker for DPP's jazzy vibe more than anything, with its OST being my favorite by an incomparable margin, and my second favorite OST is XY, mainly due to nostalgia's sake, but Black and White make a solid third for me. Because I enabled speed up halfway into my live streams, I didn't get to listen to as much as I should have, but it's still a great OST. Accumula Town and Driftvale City are the two standouts for me, but the rest of the music is solid too. More than any other Pokemon game, Black and White just feels like it gets the vibes of Pokemon more than any other OST, and I feel like that's what elevates the OST to such a high standard. Granted, I'm bad at getting my points across with music, so I'll leave you with that and get to the point I've been dying to discuss most. Many people are going to watch this video and ask a question in the comments. That being, why did you spend so much time talking about the presentation of the game? Isn't the gameplay what matters most? I'm not much of a gamer nowadays, so I'm gonna pull an example from anime. Demon Slayer is one of the most beloved anime of all time, and it sucks. The fights may be gorgeous and the OST may spring you with more hype than you can imagine, but I don't feel anything watching it because the story is incompetent. To give an example of the exact opposite thing, a manga I really loved was Tokyo Revengers until it fell off, but we don't talk about that. But I dislike its adaptation because it looks like one of my videos, and my videos still have more movement than the average episode. Basically, the point I'm trying to make is that a good story and presentation go hand in hand. You need both to make a good work of art. I can't wait for the comment section to point out an exception to the rule. Actually, let me do it right now. Welcome to episode 17 billion of AIDS mentioning my domestic girlfriend is actually good. Fuck you, you know I'm right! While a good story or gameplay can show you the true heart of the work, the presentation is what shows you how much the creator actually gave a shit. What I gather from Black and White is that Game Freak really cares about this game because every single part of the presentation is incredible. Not once did I say anything bad for it, and that enthusiasm is going to impact how I view the rest of the game. I can't just ignore a game and then it'll be good. The presentation, just like a cool fight scene, is what'll stick to your mind first. Of course, it's all null and void my personal enjoyment of the gameplay or story is bad, but that doesn't mean it should be ignored. I can acknowledge and respect Ufotable despite disliking the work they're adapting, and the same logic applies to Black and White. In that case, does the gameplay hold up? Because ultimately, this will be the most important part to me. To find this out, I'll be handling the rest of the video differently. While I jumped through topic to topic when discussing the presentation, my gameplay analysis will see me recap my live streams and see how my opinions changed over time. My stream starts by me spending approximately 7 minutes learning that the X button is on my keyboard, then I name my character Sneeko because NTR is secretly my most watched hentai tag. Then I proceed to beat a woman to gain the approval of my sugar daddy Andrew Tate. Nothing interesting happens for the rest of the stream. No, seriously, the tutorial to Black and White is slow as balls. I know it takes over an hour to get to the point in every Pokemon game, but just because it's a problem in those games doesn't mean that I'm not allowed to critique it here. Thank God my stream chat was edgy as all hell, because otherwise I probably would have gotten bored and quit at this point. To give it the benefit of the doubt, however, it's better than literally every Pokemon game afterward in this regard, so I'm not even that mad about it. By the time that I beat the goofy-ass starter gym though, the game opened up quite a bit, and I was enjoying the pretty balanced difficulty when combined with my team. Actually, how about I introduce you to Smugleaf and Sperm Bubble? Yes, I am amazing at naming things. As I said earlier, Snivy is one of my all-time favorite Pokemon, with me really liking Ash's Snivy as a kid, and with me liking Pokepark 2's iteration of the character to this day because goddamn I've played that game so many times. Sperm Bubble, on the other hand, filled the water-type quota. I was intending on getting rid of him, but as you'll see later, he was kind of a star for my team. With this team, I couldn't beat Lenora. Her onslaught of strong normal types made her an issue for my relatively weak team. So I shut off the stream for the day, and went into the next day with a plan. With the help of stream chat, I was alerted that I could catch a sock, so after naming it Cumsock, I went into the battle with it and won. I think this was my favorite fight of the entire game. It's early enough into the game where I can still customize my team with new options, and it's a difficult fight that forces me to think outside of the box to find a winning solution. I feel like RPGs really struggled to balance the fine line of being boringly easy and frustratingly difficult, so I found this fight to be the healthiest middle ground in the entire game. It wasn't just a feeling of relief I got from beating her, but also a feeling of being rewarded for my efforts. On a side note, I caught a Venipede and named it Penis Woman. I don't even know what the joke is anymore, but it's so fucking funny. Then I come at the side of the bridge and I'm at Castilia after talking about Fudanari. Berg is a pretty solid fight. It's hard to make a bug-type gym difficult, but I had a Snivy and Sock along with a Venipede that was about as useful as a softened dick, which meant that this fight was surprisingly difficult. Granted, I still beat it on my first try. By this point, I was genuinely really liking the game. Sure, most of my enthusiasm to start a stream stemmed from seeing how edgy my stream chat was and interacting with my friends in a Discord voice chat, but the game itself was genuinely good. It had a great grasp of difficulty balancing, and when you combine that with the excellent presentation, it made for a really good game. Sure, it's still Pokemon, so it's not like it's going to be a masterpiece, but it was good fun. I'm using the past tense because Elisa made me want to take the fucking red pill. By this point, my team was pretty much established. I caught a Darumaka named Pooh is Tasty, if you know you know, a Scraggy named Horny Pants, and finally a Sandile named Andrew Tate. I think I'm the funniest man in the universe. All of these Pokemon I thought would do fine against Elisa, but it secretly turned out that she was a flying type gym leader. If I see Amalga again, I'll start a fucking squirrel genocide. This thing beat basically everything on my team, and she had 2 of them. Sure, I may have been stubborn not catching a new Pokemon, but how could you blame me for getting pissed off at the constant Volt Switch spam? This was so infuriating. While Lenora felt like a test of skill, Elisa was a test of patience that almost had me quit the game. I'm someone who approaches difficulty different from certain others because I don't play video games the same way others do. Despite liking the high of a good challenge or a close game, my patience is not very high. Unless it's a competitive game, I'm the kind of guy who will play a game to relax. And that bias certainly affected how I viewed the Elisa fight. While some may love an Amalga with only 2 moves that it actually fucking uses, others like me are quick to get fed up with such an experience, and it's where I got the feeling of how difficult game balancing is. Thankfully then, even though this fight left an extremely bad taste in my mouth, one that would honestly affect the rest of my playthrough, using items is basically easy mode, so I just resorted to those to get the battle over with. Something else that I think needs to be noted is how slow the game is after this point. The Team Plasma fights leading up to Clay aren't that hard, and Clay himself is a complete joke. I just soloed his entire team with Sperm Bubble. Clay lost all of his Pokemon to a demon named fucking Sperm Bubble! Charterstone Cave was also pretty boring, and Skyla wasn't that much different. My team was pretty weak to hers, but I leveled most of my Pokemon in advance, so she was fairly manageable, with me winning it on the first try, despite it being a very close game. Also, I have a Litwick named Seaman Lord now. I swear to God, I have the sense of humor of a 9-year-old. The late game of Black and White was a step up from the mid game. but it didn't really hit the same strides as the early game. Bryson, like Skyla, hit a good middle ground for difficulty. I beat him on the first try, so it wasn't exactly memorable, but it was decently close and the battle was fun. Holy shit, a shiny Croc Rock, what the fuck?
Catch that thing right now. We don't need Andrew Tate, that's Tristan Tate. That's Andrew's brother.
Holy shit. Drayden was the exact same way as the last two gyms. It was challenging, but it ultimately took only one try. I think it's obvious by this point, but I haven't been very enthusiastic about the late game despite it not being bad by any means. And I think the reason for it is that the difficulty balancing still isn't perfect to me. To be fair, I did look at Drayden's team on Bulbapedia, and that made the fight much easier, and wait a second. This is a weird idea, but what if after losing to a gym leader, you could get to see what was on their team? This would keep the difficulty you felt before the first fight, while preventing the game from getting frustrating. To give an example, I struggled through the Elite Four due to how severely underleveled my team was. However, when I looked up their teams after a few tries, I was far more easily able to build a legitimate strategy that helped me win. That was a very rewarding feeling, while also not being frustrating since I knew everything that was on Marshall's team. Speaking of the Elite Four, I never liked them. I think their difficulty is handled fine in modern Pokemon games where they're a lot easier, but since I'm the type of dude who's always going to be underleveled, I've always disliked the Elite Four and past Pokemon games. I was legit over 10 levels under my opponents, and by this point, all I could think to do was take advantage of my emulator's capabilities and do a rare candy cheat. This made the fights go from impossibly difficult to pretty easy. The only reason I didn't get the first try victory was because I spawned so many rare candies that they despawned my hyper potions that I'd use to heal my Pokemon between battles. But then, the game was about to end. I caught a Reshiram and decided not to nickname it after cum since I had already done that 3 times. Then, Spice suggested erectile dysfunction, so I named it Rudius. For anyone based enough to get the joke, I commend you for your good taste in anime. By the way, the game is over now, and I didn't play the post-game. This is going to be an incredibly hot take, but I'm going to say it anyway. When a game ends, I put it down. I genuinely don't care about the post-games to any video games I play, and I've always found it bizarre how much attention people put into it when complaining about modern Pokemon games. Why would I even care about what's next when I found the game middling anyway? Black and White confuse me as games. They're gorgeous, expressive, sound amazing, and have better gameplay than most, if not all, Pokemon games. Despite this, I ended up burnt out. I thought the game was just okay, a far cry from the excellence I was told to expect. That classic formula that's worked so well in the past has been repeated and recycled so many times that it no longer means anything to me. Playing Black and White felt no different to playing Sword and Shield to me. This is such a weird thing to say too, because unlike Sword and Shield, which didn't really feel like a labor of love, Black and White absolutely was that. At the time, it was bold to only allow new Pokemon. It was bold to have a story that actually tried, and it was bold to do all of that despite the massive resistance to change from the community. Now, I'm anything but resistant. I want Pokemon to be different, to be better. But that won't ever happen. So, am I still a Pokemon fan? The answer is no, and that's okay, because I'll cherish all the good memories I had with it. Thank you for watching the video. I didn't know if I'd have anything of note to say, and I honestly still don't know if I had anything of note to say. This video was weird, an unhinged tonal disaster, but that's exactly what you get when you watch me. I make videos for myself now, so I hope you enjoyed this more personal look into a Pokemon game, and that you'll enjoy whatever dumb bullshit I make next. It could be on anything really. I'll probably become an anime YouTuber, but I could see myself still tackling Pokemon every now and again. I know that it might suck to not know what to expect with me anymore, and when you combine that with my awful upload schedule, I can understand that my channel won't be hitting its same peaks ever again. However, I also hope that you can see my many improvements. I don't want to make factory-produced content like I used to anymore. I want to take a step from Black and White's book to make passion-fueled content instead. Regardless, I want to thank my wonderful Patreon supporters who help me pay for my VTuber figurines. Those are my gamer tier patrons Mystic Owl, Filthy Cubone, Jesse, and Squizzy, Simp tier patrons Regimania, Eternum, and Ghoul, and finally my God tier patron Plasma Energized. Your support continues to add up significantly. If you want to be a patron, the links will be down below and include wonderful benefits such as watching my videos a week in advance and seeing my entire Google Drive if you're really starving for content. As for everyone else, I'm glad you watched. I don't make videos with the expectation that they'll be seen anymore, so the clicks I do get genuinely do mean more to me now. So, thank you. I really mean it.